accordingly. Here we go. Chapter 13 is a lot about how to use everything on the path to awakening. How to use everything on the path to wisdom. That the wisdom factors are not only the moments that we get right, or that we, hit the 500 batting average, or we make the hole in one, or we get the perfect gymnastic exercise, or we play the perfect sonata. Actually, this teaching says, in fact, that the greatest wisdom is going to come from everything you have failed in. Everything you didn't understand, everything you couldn't see, everything you got wrong, and with wrong being not morally based, but based on what you, the best result you were seeking. And so I have to say, I know this teaching deeply, personally, that it has rarely been, maybe I don't know if it's ever been, in a moment where I finally said it right, where the heart was widely open and the light was shining, as Dennis says. More likely, my greatest teachings, the greatest wisdom, has come from every moment it didn't go the way I hoped or wanted or expected. And there are many slogans in the pith instructions of the Lojong slogans, of which we have gone through several times, that speak to this reality. And I'll just relay a few. One is, be grateful for everything. Right? Be grateful for everything. And in Rumi's poem, as we know from the guest house then, everything comes as a gift. Everything then comes as a gift. Everything then comes as a gift. Just hold that thought for a moment. Everything? The loss, the pain, the grief, everything? And the answer is yes. Because if you are experiencing this in this human life, it is a part of the human endeavor. It is a part of the human condition. And as the Buddha himself said, the first noble truth being, there is suffering in this life. So we might say unavoidable, inescapable pain, that aging, illness, death, and loss reality. And so then, be grateful for everything suggests that it is, in fact, in these moments where instead of shutting down, instead of closing off, instead of striking out, instead of closing in some way our essential heart-mind, that we could use this very opportunity to open up. Wow. Big, noble work, big practice. And if you can do it, even, the teachings say then, for one breath, you have transformed the world. Can you see why? Yeah, it goes against everything set up in this human body. Everything. It goes against the brainstem that says fight, flight, fix, or freeze. It goes against our own habit natures. That says get rid of it, kill it, or bond with it. It moves beyond something that is otherwise intrinsic to our human condition. And so then Rilke, for example, another poet I very much enjoy from, I think he was Austrian or German, he said, this is God. Can you see why he would identify it so? Let me put on my glasses so I can see a little. Can you see why that would be true? This is God. That God is not something somewhere else, that it is not some divine separate from you, that it is actually you, this aspect of you that holds, as we now know in the neuroscience, the whole of the universe and more neurons, that you are it. And then we are given, gifted, we could even say, isn't it crazy, gifted these opportunities to transform our base human existence into something divine, godly, sacred, interconnected, interbeing. You find the word for you. But doesn't that make sense then? In every single moment that you open to the truth, rather than to do one of our other strategies, that this itself is God. I love the, that makes so much, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. I hope it does to you, because I think it's dangerous for us to look to somebody, some entity, some other, for divinity, for peace, for ease, for happiness, for freedom. I think it's dangerous. It doesn't mean we don't get to call on all other things, all the good, all the blessed, all the wise that have come before. I don't mean that. But I think when the rubber hits the road, when it finally boils down to shutting down or opening, we have to train ourselves to do so. We cannot wait for another moment, another being. We ourselves are called then to become God. And I think we are. And I think we do. And I think the path is treacherous. It's no easy. It's jagged and you fall off 1,000 times. And the reason we sit in community then, don't we, is so that we can once again begin again. Can we? We once again begin again. That we don't stay defeated, that we don't stay failed, that even in this moment of screaming at the partner, at shutting down completely for days, even then we can awaken and then begin again, mindfully, wholeheartedly, compassionately begin again. I'm just going to stop for a minute. We have just 2 more before we begin our silent sitting. I just want to see if this makes sense to you. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And what do you know about it? Can you get this idea? And then the KLESHAS miss the wake up. I'm glad you're here. Right? Then instead of damn God or ourselves or the other or the circumstance, we could, as Pema suggests, shout, hooray, wow, ah la la, she says, instead of, oh shit, in that we have come up right against the edge of our transcendence, right up against the edge of our now becoming something more than this base lizard brain. And that every time we do it, we're setting condition for it to repeat. Every time we do it, we are opening the neural pathway to do it again. Every time we do it, we have thrown the bucket of water down the hill so that next time we can do the same. Right? Isn't this encouraging? Yes, awe goes a long way is right. Can we see everything then is the question with awe, not just the things we like. Can we see the death in awe? Yes. Can we see just like the birth? Can we see the failed? Yes. Isn't it with as much awe? Yeah. Can we open to everything is exactly right. This is our practice this week. We have asked last week that before we do this, which is the second level of courage that Pema is going to talk about, that we first refrain. That was last week. We refrain, stop, pause, create a gap between what is occurring, what we are experiencing, and that lizard brain. That we take 1, 3, or 5 breaths to give ourselves some space to awaken, to call on this upper neocortex, to invite that God head, right? Instead of just acting from that primal reality. I'm going to read chat and then we're going to sit. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just thinking, and I think, just reading Pema's other, books and stuff too. It just reminds me of it's that um ability to get to know ourselves better, and why, like to grow from the negative experience by trying to also go deeper within ourselves and see why it's bothering us. Yes. And what it's triggering, and to try to maybe learn to not react from that trigger and grow and go to the heart and feel better about yourself, and not, like you said, react to others with it, but see why it's happening and what's happening in us because of this.
That's right. So we don't further the pain. We don't further the aggression. We don't further the greed. We don't further the ignorance. We stop it right there. What was that? The buck stops here, from Roosevelt. You don't propagate pain, harm, and reactivity. By your very restraint, said the first courage, you have changed the world. By the second, this is the second act of courage, we now will use the very difficulty as a wisdom factor. Right? Makes sense. Then we all get it. All right, we're going to sit silently and then I'll move right into the practice. Thank you for that, Felicia. Right on the money. The goodness in us is always here. Let me remind you, it did not go somewhere else, even when you believe you have completely effed it up. It is not true. The wisdom capacities are all online. They never leave. You are never deficient. It is never without. You have been born of this capacity. Wisdom factor and an awakening is always available every moment, the most difficult included. I'll tell you a story about my phone when we come back, but for now, let's sit silently. Recognizing the stability of mind with a few moments of stillness. And then recognizing within the stillness itself the awareness of sensations arising and passing in the body. Creating space and room for the direct experience without all the storyline, without the preferencing, without the automatic bias and then reactivity. Some sensations are pleasant, some unpleasant, and many are neutral. See if we can stay engaged in the body and begin to simply recognize them as they arise and pass. In the very recognizing, you are already inviting something larger than our base capacities. And then if you could simply refrain from any action, at least initially, just so that this experience can be known, this thing called sensation. We don't grip to the pleasant, we don't reject, push away, or aggress against the unpleasant. And we see if we can't use as much awareness to engage the neutral. And if the body feels like too large a canvas, we could simply use the breath. Breath we like, and our tendency to hold, to cling, to attach, and to want to keep. And then the unpleasant breath, the tendency to reject, to distract, to entertain, to aggress against in some way, even with judgment, bad breath. And how we completely miss the neutral. We don't even make contact typically. The attention doesn't even hold. And remember, we're not bringing any judgments about this. There's no better or worse. There's just the recognition itself. Right here in the awareness of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral as it relates to the body and then to the breath, we are growing in the wisdom factor. We begin to see our relationship to objects in the body. We begin to recognize the things we have habits for attaching to and liking, the habits for aversion and rejecting, the habits for ignoring altogether. Growing in wisdom, breath by breath. Beyond the objects of the body, we can use objects of mind, thoughts, images, beliefs, opinions. And we're not looking for particular thoughts or kinds of thoughts. We're just holding that vast open space, the awareness, sky-like quality of mind. And then letting thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. We're not condemning the thought. We're not keeping the thought. And to the extent that we're capable, we're going to try not to propagate the thought with another thought. Thoughts that this is good, thoughts that this is bad, and the thoughts we completely miss, which are the majority of our thoughts. Just opening and including thoughts as objects for awareness. Three objects of mind. Three poisons: the tendency to cling, to aggress, to reject, and to ignore completely. But just as easily, with training just like this, in the recognition of the pleasant and the gripping, in awareness of the unpleasant arising and the rejecting, the pushing away, the closing down, with direct and clear knowledge that we miss most of our thoughts, even ones we've had since we've named neutral thoughts and the tendency to ignore, inattend. We are wiser right now, just knowing this. You might have caught a thought, you might not have, but we are now in keener mindfulness. We can know the body like this across the three phases: quality of mind and our reactivity, as well as our responding. What can we do here? We can simply refrain from any action at all. And then we can open wider by allowing what is true to be true. That kind of thought causing distress. I just had a thought earlier, what time's my phone getting here? And I could feel the very fire in the body activate. Heart became more rapid. I left the present moment for, will it be this afternoon or later tonight? And then how am I going to get this thing set up? The papancha of thoughts began. And as well did the recognition, mind moving into thoughts about the phone, thoughts about setting up the phone, thoughts about the distress related to all of that. And then we can, with that moment of awareness, smile, create space for the experience itself. You can feel right into the grip. And then we breathe out, let go, and begin again. And that very awareness of our own reactivity, of our own wanting and not wanting, not liking and liking, clinging and rejecting, this is the path to wisdom. We are no longer lost in that moment. Wherever the mind was, however the body is. And then we re-intention. Let me be present here, this very breath, this very moment, and we begin again. And then there is a third quality, the quality of the heart. And with the awakened mind, frequently we can begin to open the heart to feel for ourselves in our confusion, in our clinging, in our rejecting life and ourselves as we are. We can open again and again. Right from those seeds of those very poisons, converting automatically, immediately, that quality of mind into a virtue. By recognition, abiding, we can then choose open-heartedness, compassion, non-judgment, patience, continued mindfulness, and awareness. Three objects, three poisons, three seeds of virtue. And then we are grateful for everything. And we feel for ourselves here in this moment of attachment, in this moment of aversion, in this moment of delusion. And then we soften the body. We free the mind. And we open the heart. We have now moved beyond restraint into engaging with the world, with the mind, with the body, with kindness, with love, with compassion and wisdom. We feel for ourselves in this moment of distress, remembering that this is a part of the human experience and that all beings know this too. And then we are being and breathing and training for all beings. May it be of benefit. Any questions about that practice or any comments about that practice? Can you see from the very practice any understanding of that slogan? Yeah, there they are, right there for us every breath. And so this is a really important understanding, particularly in the spiritual community. I think it's easy, isn't it, to believe that somehow if we are on a spiritual path, that somehow we will escape the difficulties, or somehow we will transcend the difficulties in life, or somehow, if we get it right, we will not be confronted with these points of difficulty. And we already know the truth of it, don't we? There's just no escape. We are not going to be separated from life in that way. We, in fact, I have noticed, are invited in maybe a little more. Maybe a little more. Maybe we're going to feel it a little more. Maybe we're going to know difficulty, pain, loss a little more, because of our very capacity not just to completely shut down, but this little bit of training in opening invites us to know and to stay and to abide the human experience a little bit more, with then a little bit more wisdom and a lot more compassion, by virtue of what? Being right there. And then we stay because we recognize that there really was never anywhere else to go, that it was never true. It was always a ruse. And that since we're already there, called whatever it is you're dealing with right now, how do we stay and refrain from the old habits so that we can use this experience, usually the one we didn't want, towards the benefit, my benefit, your benefit. And every person that takes that one breath, really literally, just the one breath, to create space or room or pause or the gap, changes everything for us all, because we all evolve from that. Each one of us who sees someone else in a moment of patience, in a moment of kindness, in a moment of ease, in a moment of peace, in a moment of non-reactivity, when they could have otherwise, as my dad would say, lost their shit, changes us all, doesn't it? It does, because you go, I can do that too then. If you can do it, I can do it. And it doesn't mean right now, maybe. But it does mean if you will be more energized, more compelled to stay on the path, won't you? You will, because you'll go, wait a minute, I want that freedom also. I want that awakening also. I want that ease also. I want that responsiveness, that open-heartedness also. And so I will continue. And it is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. And so it's why we practice together, because we continue to see all of the benefits that it gives us all. And we try to talk about those as well as the challenges, right? It's not an either or. Let's look at chapter 13, I think it is now. Let's see if I can find it. It just shortened itself in my, I think I'm going to get the wrong one. Hang on. Punch it in. There it is. disappeared on me. I have revived it. There we go. The second step to courage, a positive take on the kleshas. Let me remind you that a klesha simply is the habit, the tendency to grip that which is pleasant, to reject that which is, or aggress against that which is unpleasant. Let's see if we can all see it here. We should be able to get a look at this now. Can everybody see that? Yeah, Lynn, good. Dennis, thank you. So here it says, the second step to courage, reminding you for a moment, the first step is first pause. If we can't pause, we can't see anything. It's like trying to see something on the train, right? Everything's flowing by and you're going, was that a cow? Well, nobody knows what that was because it was went flying by. That very pause might offer what maybe we could call it something like a freeze frame, right? Just a moment, a little Kodak moment there, a grip, a catch it, and then observe, bring awareness. And so the second step then is, what do we do with what we caught? What do we do with what we discover? Well, the first thing we do is recognize that all objects have three flavors. The flavors are that which we like and call good and pleasant, that which we don't like, which we call unpleasant, painful, horrible, difficult, sort of an averse reactivity, and that which we miss altogether, frequently neutral. And we did a little training with that this morning with the body and with thoughts and even the quality of our hearts. And so here I've got a lot underlined, so I'm going to try to get through it with you. Pema says the second step to courage, transforming the kleshas into love and compassion. Transforming the kleshas into love. That's an interesting line now that I'm really listening. I don't know about that. I'm just checking in on my own experience. 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue, then the potential to take everything, the things we like, the things we don't like, and even the things we miss, and actually use them as to be of benefit. There's another slogan and it says, make the poison a nutriment. Take the thing that was experienced as negative. Remember, nothing inherently is negative, even though that's a hard concept for us. It doesn't mean it's not painful. It doesn't mean it isn't experienced as unpleasant. It does mean there is no object that is intrinsically bad, intrinsically negative. That is, we imbue objects with those labels and preferences. Even when someone says something like, death is always painful, I don't know that that's true. That's not been my experience, by the way. It doesn't mean it's negative. And we tend to assign things we don't like, right? With that negativity bias, we do tend to also assign things we do like, things we did want, things we hope for, pray for, and enjoy as positives. Again, not inherently so. They're simply objects. And then, of course, as I said, we miss the neutrals most often. I'm not sure about the transforming the klesha. I think it's maybe, honestly, seeing it more clearly. I'm trying to get a hold of this transforming idea. I'm stuck on it now. I don't know if it's true that we transform the object. I think it might be more true that the object transforms us. That once we see a thing and recognize that we have assigned it, I think we're transformed. And from there, I think ultimately love, compassion, and opening is the only response. It could only then be a response from that awareness. But it's an interesting idea that the kleshas are transformed. Just an interesting idea. 3 objects, I already said what those were. The 3 poisons, we already said that those are the points of reactivity. And then the 3 seeds of virtue: love, compassion, equanimity, wisdom. They can be used as a part of the path to the end of suffering and to the end of the kleshas. The kleshas are an inevitable result of the illusion of separateness. Yes, this is very true. Once we have decided that life has somehow abandoned us, not that we have abandoned life by our own constricted mind, by our own collapsed heart, by our own now deadened body, but we blame life, don't we? And then we blame others in life, and then we blame the circumstances in life. It says, while you're doing that, we will consistently be caught in the cycle of samsara, in that reactivity pool, and lost in delusion to the truth of our forever indelible connectedness, interbeing, interdependence. And yes, it is true, we blame life frequently. Life has left me, when in fact it is we who have separated our heart minds from life as it is. The great cosmic mirror, the one that Chogyam talks about here, without beginning and without end, that means that awareness is always available. Human society became manifest. We made ourselves the self-making mind. At that time, liberation and confusion mutually arose. Now remember what we're saying, and we can use both, is the point. Both the liberation, both the awareness, and the lack of awareness can be as useful in its recognition. And then we throw away nothing, we reject nothing, and we do not judge or evaluate ourselves on anything because we're just constantly in that place. Can I bring awareness here and now, here and now, just here and now? And the answer is yes. As we get better and better in our sustaining mindfulness, the truth is we get better and better at not getting thrown off the path, but really just staying in it, no matter how difficult, no matter how pleasant. We either recognize that we are part of the ground of all awareness, all experience, or we experience ourselves as separate. We all know the consequence of this. The pain of this, it is unrelenting and excruciating. For me and against me, with me and not, the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. She's this dualistic mind comes in. That is the mind of separation. The nature of the kleshas is always the same as the basic ground of awareness. It is just an arising event. It is nothing until we become attached, averse, or move into separation and delusion. But without recognition, there is a lot of pain. Since the energy of the kleshas, wowie wow, is neither good nor bad, we do get, how do we get so captured? And boy, don't we. The power of this mind that is already in default mode network is incredible. It will just take you away, often without our even knowing it. It is so potent, so powerful. Only our thoughts make them positive or negative, as we just said. Our general propensity is to find the klesha energy hard to handle. This is a very important point. Hard to handle. It is so big. It is so virile. It is so ferocious that often it captures us. It gathers us. It grips us. And we don't even know what has happened. We're literally captive to our own minds and to our own experience. And boy, once it gets a hold of us, it is very difficult to get ourselves back into that heedful, mindful place of equanimity. Very, very difficult. Often we have to literally separate from the field. It's called by Herbert Benson, who said you cannot stay face to face with the tiger when the tiger is eating you. It is not a good move. Better to get out of the room, better to get out of the house, better to get in the car, better to take a walk, better to separate oneself temporarily from the noxious stimuli, frequently called the partner, and get some breath. That you will be lost. And in fact, if you stay, you can become more and more lost because of the power of the kleshas. And boy, do we know this to be true. The mouth just keeps moving, even if it's just in the mind. You're talking about why you shouldn't have to put up with all this. This is why we need to slow the process, create the gap, restrain, and then allow a moment of mindful gap. We use our thoughts intentionally to give the kleshas a positive direction. We do this by using the pain of our emotions, the very energy, she means, that very intensity we usually avoid. We can use that energy because it is so powerful to actually turn towards and use that energy towards the benefit, towards the welfare, towards the good, towards wisdom, love, and compassion. Isn't that amazing? That very virulent energy. Right now, whatever we are going through, other people are also going through. We did that in the practice. It is never just our pain. And don't we climb in, right? That little cocoon of self, just me and my suffering here. Anything you have ever experienced or that you will ever experience has already been experienced by the multitude of living beings who have been on this earth. We must remember this and call it to mind. It is that which begins to make us bigger and open the heart mind to not only then do this moving towards the difficult for ourselves, but for then all beings. This is the Bodhisattva path. I can use this very difficulty, this very moment, as an opportunity to grow in love, wisdom, patience, kindness, compassion, trust. And let's not waste it, is the point of this chapter. All feelings are universal, felt by all beings. And remember, we've already decided we do not assign positive, negative, or otherwise to any of them. We are all in the same boat, this human life. We all get wrapped up in our own discomforts. Who likes them? Well, nobody. We lose sight of the obvious fact that there is often difficulties, challenges, difficult feelings, painful thoughts. No one is indifferent to this suffering. No one is indifferent to this suffering. This is a very important point. It's the whole point of suffering, I believe, is in fact to get your attention. I think that's why when I notice that I'm suffering, I now celebrate, really, like this is fabulous. I get to see something I have otherwise missed because that's why I'm suffering. I have not seen clearly the truth of something. I just recently came on to a very deep awareness. I'll share one. After a difficult conversation with my husband, I frequently like to review it. I am hopeful for understanding or insight or by each other for the other. This has not proven to be true. The review devolves pretty quickly into, but you did, but not you, but I did, really doesn't go the way I would most hope. Not certainly by my design. It's not the way I'd like it. And I've recognized, actually, it's only taken me 15 years. I'm a wizard. that these conversations are actually not very productive. They're really not useful. It is not so great if someone can't step back and move into observer mode, which you have to train to do. It is not that great to revive the distressing stimuli. And even talking about it, I've noticed, revives that for some. And so it's like, well, who am I really doing this for? It's certainly not working for the partner. I just end up going, wait a minute, we were going to use this time for self-reflection, self-awareness, really understanding each other better. Oh, wow, no, I have really gone like, let's not talk. This is the better path because it has not proven to be effective. It doesn't mean it couldn't be. It means we are not yet in a shared place sufficiently to use conversation in quite that way at that time. I'm still learning what might be more beneficial. Is forgiveness, is mercy, is compassion and kindness, not conversation, at least not then. Transformation suggests that we use our emotional pain as a stepping stone to opening our hearts to others, that we can use the very activation of heart. We could simply call it that. Remember, neither positive, negative, or neutral on its own. That's simply the level of attention and reactivity we're bringing to the object. But we can then transform that by opening to everything and using our own open-heartedness as the first response. Well, maybe let's call it the second response, because the first is refraining from harm, restraining the klesha. We can appreciate the kleshas then for giving us insight into not only our experience, which comes first. If you don't know your experience with the kleshas, you will not understand the others and then be able to respond compassionately. She's moved into what numbness is about. The tendency causes us enormous pain. This is the tendency to disconnect, to separate, or to become numb. Pema herself has identified herself as someone who uses this strategy quite often. So does Sharon Salzberg, by the way, as just kind of going into a numbness. Consider that what you're feeling right now is being felt by millions of people. I said the multitude of living beings, all beings throughout the world. None of them welcomes the feeling any more than you do. Can you then, this is my inquiry with myself, can I then be the one, just this one moment, to take this one breath towards the experience and not just to those typical habit-natured reactions? Can I be the one, just this one moment, to stay with, to open up, to bear witness, to be with, to breathe the truth of this difficulty, this present moment? And it's an intention I set in every encounter. It is not one that is realized always as quickly as I would wish, but it always matters. The intention itself always counts as well. Let me go back and pick that up. When we tap into what's going on with ourselves, our own reactivity, our own ease, our own responsiveness, any of that, and realize the same thing is happening to so many others, there's the possibility of bringing down our barriers, that separateness that we have set up between ourselves and life often, rather than putting them up some more. And this is a key point. Can I begin by being different just this moment, by staying with, opening up? Can I begin to transform the moment, myself, and all beings, because that's what's actually happening. Having empathy and tenderness for others is based on the ability to do so for oneself. This is why we must begin with ourselves. Therefore, an important step in transforming the kleshas into seeds of virtue is to get in touch with a sense of warm-heartedness towards ourselves in our own stuckness. You get the idea? Can we stay with ourselves and then offer that warm, open heart? First to ourselves in our own confusion, in our own distress, in our own aggression, in our own shutdown, in our own grasping, clinging, wanting something else. Can we stay with ourselves? The very first work. Imagine if you could trust that you are not a threat to yourself, that you are here to help yourself by staying, by being mindful, by opening the heart in unconditional warmth. If you develop curiosity and sympathy towards your tendencies to lie, for example, she used lying, compulsive lying as an example, not feeding it, but exploring it, you'll naturally begin to have empathy for others who do the same thing. Exactly. Whatever it is, whether it's getting angry, whether it's shutting down, if you yourself understand the pain and the fear that was activated for you in that encounter that led to that reactivity, you will then recognize and know it as the truth for others as well. You'll know their pain, you'll know their fear, and you will begin to respond to it, not to that outer manifest behavior called aggression or blame, but you must know your own first, because without that wisdom, you cannot recognize the other. And then it says, one who has low self-esteem often leads to them striking out and blaming the world. Right. Our own insecurities frequently do not allow us to take responsibility for our own behavior, our own actions, our own speech. And in fact, if only you were something, then I could be more loving. This is never the truth, and it is often used, isn't it? If only you could be different, the world could be different, then I could join it. And our work is quite the opposite, to join it right in its infinite disguise of being difficult, rather than turning the other way. Isn't it? That's love. We can only stand in the shoes of others to the degree that we stand in our own. When we turn a blind eye to our own emotions and propensities, we cut ourselves off from others and certainly from life. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Yes, it is simple. Not easy work, however, I will say. And then next week, we will be going on to chapter 14, which is the 2 practices for transforming the heart. One is compassionate abiding and Tonglen. We've all done Tonglen practice before, but we'll go over this next week. We've already gotten our assignments for this week for work on Saturday, and that is to really use restraint as it relates to speech. We've been talking about right speech. We did that on Saturday. Speech is a beautiful practice, isn't it? Because we have a tendency to just blah, blah. Just comes right out, right from the brainstem, right here. Look at how close that is. There's nowhere it has to go. And we're now practicing restraining. Can we just stop, pause? This is not the same as shoving down. This is not the same as pushing away. This is not. This is simply creating a mindful gap, an open-hearted space in which we can rest for a moment so that we can see, sense, and know how best to respond. You want to know where the fire is before you put the hose on it. It's best to take a moment, find the breath, feel the body, see the quality of mind, and then open the heart in response, right? And right speech is a beautiful opportunity because typically it's highly patterned, not very well thought out. Lynn says, during this busy time, it is relief to recognize each breath, isn't it? Yes, just right there. It's a big refuge, isn't it, Lynn? To refrain from acting, speaking, and to just take a breath and to give space to myself and others to then see with patience and compassion. I agree completely. I think it's the first refuge, honestly. I think the breath itself is the very first refuge, that we can just rest there without, you didn't have to do anything yet. You didn't have to get brilliant. You didn't have to solve the world's problems. You just offered space. And that refuge is felt, by the way, I hope you notice it too, Lynn, is felt by everyone. I just see that over and over again. My son was frustrated yesterday about something, and he was sort of, it's not his style, by the way. He tends to be quite naturally easeful, generally. And I was just breathing and listening. And he looked at me twice, like, what's going on over there? No advice? What are you doing? Did you quit your therapy job? What's going on? And I just nodded. Right? Hard like this. It's difficult to work for people who don't really know what they want. It's difficult to be successful when you can't get right instruction, when people change their minds, when they wanted this to begin and now they want that. And yes, I understand the feeling of personal failure. I understand the feeling of frustration, right? Don't we all? I understand. And I didn't say it at all. I just breathed. And after the second look, he had to check sideways. What's going on over there? He smiled. He smiled. Yeah, it's like that, right? It's like that not only for me, but for you too. And he saw the knowing right there. And so didn't need to say much more. Kind of went like that, right? That's just what's going to happen sometimes. And it's exactly right. The other truth I want to tell my phone story. I have just 2 minutes. The phone story is I was at the Parade of Lights on a yacht with Adrian, my friend, and we were so excited. I just got on the boat. They put me in the crow's nest because standing was going to be challenging for my knee. And somebody said, oh, look, and I flung myself around, and on my lap was my phone, and my phone went flying off the lap into the water. And we all, because we were all at that end of the boat, looked down, and I looked up and said, bye. And people were going to jump in to get my phone. And I said, like, this is crazy. It's freezing cold. This is ridiculous. And they said, wait a minute, we'd be beside ourselves with this. And I said, no, the truth is, this is the result of a lot of training. I can let go of this. It's here and then it's gone, right? And then what? You either get another one or you don't, right? It's not a child. It's not a beloved. It's a thing, right? It'll get replaced or it won't get replaced, but really, right? Oh no, said this much younger group. We would have all jumped in after the phone. And I thought, how sad is this? How sad is this? I actually felt sad that we would jump in over a device and often wouldn't do that for another, right? And this is the benefit of the training in the kleshas. We can see the grippy self. We can see the rejecting self. We can see the spaced out, disconnected, or numb self. And in the very seeing, we are liberated. That's the point of this training. And then we are liberated. And then whatever you do with it, I trust, will be greater than just being trapped by that separating energy. I trust that. Renee writes, Big work. It takes courage to look at our propensities, boy, and ways of reacting and look at that with compassion. Yes, it does. Really helps us to see we are just like others. We typically judge and realize we are just like everyone else. It's so true. Very humbling. Yes. Big work, but the way to breaking open to true love and truly living in this world with connection. Yeah, exactly right. It's why we're doing it, all of us. And it is big and noble, said the Buddha. It is the biggest and noblest enterprise. I can't think of anything better to do, and neither can you. Not anything. You can't come up with it. And so then watch what else you're doing. Because frequently we're spinning off somewhere else, thinking we need to be doing something else. Big work, but very fruitful. We are going to stay then in the work of working with right speech. We're beginning right speech by saying nothing. Remember, we're not trying to come up with something clever, profound. We're actually saying nothing and offering breaths, as Lynn was saying, as refuge first, as holding space first, both for ourselves and whether you know it or not, just as I noticed with my son, for the other as well. I didn't even set that intention for him as much as I had set it for myself. And I just saw its benefit to him as I was breathing and holding him in that space. Can we continue on this path? It says the very next act of courage then is to recognize the propensities and rather than enact them, offer compassion for and to oneself. Rather than act on it, can I feel my own grip? Can I feel my own aversion? Can I feel my own ignorance? And rather than just judge, hate, condemn, or shut down more, can I, in fact, offer myself some kind of kindness, space, and compassion? And the answer is yes. If you stay, what you'll notice, as I have, is that there is nothing else to do. Nothing else will come once you have created that space, except feeling for oneself. This is the second act of radical courage. And so we can practice that. Instead of just pausing now, can we pause and then open something to our own suffering or the suffering of another? This is phase 2 in the opening of the noble and courageous heart. All right. I hope everyone is well. Siobhan, it's lovely to see you. I am so sorry about Sachi. We did hold you last week and hold you now as you go through the reality of that pain, of grief.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
First, I really felt everyone's support during this time, and I'm having an unusual experience this week after putting her down. I thought I would shut down and hide from the world. I told my friends, I'll let you know when I resurface. That was so not true. My heart is breaking wide open. And I am finding myself in that opening. I'm more open to the world, the environment, the community. Everything is luminous. And I'm finding it, it's somehow easier to be more present wherever I am. And I'm in deep grief. I burst into tears over nothing, throughout the day. And then it's over. I just feel this huge expansion.
Yeah.
And yet it's painful. Like I'm not denying it. It's painful and I'm just deeply missing her.
Yes.
And yet I didn't expect this.
Yeah, how lovely that you could use that very pain as the portal to awakening and to opening. That's taking the kleshas, exactly as this slogan says, and turning them into virtue. We can either shut down to the truth of pain or we can practice opening. And you are doing that, and in fact being led, it sounds like, by the heart into that opening. And I agree with you, it doesn't mean it's not painful at all. That's a delusion. We call that spiritual bypassing, right? This somehow I'll escape it if I turn towards it. No, we will know it, but we will know it as the potential of this human heart to open, even here, even now. And then feeling for all those people who have lost their kitties, for all those people who have loved pets, right, as maybe the primary love of their life, and lost those pets, and then lost others. And then we go to all losses everywhere, ever. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that you can use it to be present is so spectacular, Siobhan. That's so spectacular. Thank you. For all of us. Thank you for that. Remember, when you do that for you, you're doing that for us all. Also, we will all have then a little more courage in our moments of grief, in our moments of pain, not to shut down, turn away, or collapse. So thank you so much for that. Thank you all. May we just sit for a moment with our hands gathered at the heart. May we be filled with this life and its full experience, turning away from nothing, moving moment by moment ever closer with that warm and open heart. Just one breath crack. We're not just tearing open the bloom here. We're just seeing if we can abide compassionately for one breath, then two, and then three. May we hold each other in these warm and embracing arms of loving kindness, compassion, and equanimity, until we and all beings are happy and free. Thank you all so much. So wonderful to see you. We'll be in the garden this Saturday at 7:30. Greg will be on this Thursday at 7. Please join us anytime. And yes, may we continue together in this big work, big and beautiful work. Thank you all so much for your contribution. We need each other desperately. Thank you. Be well, everyone. Enjoy this beautiful December day. I'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday, if not, for sure on Saturday. Be well.